3D printing is a great tool to organize all the stuff you need and also the stuff you don't really need but keep around nonetheless. But what do you do if you are a prolific hoarder of all things known to mankind and you just don't have a 3D printer to squeeze out all those beautiful Gridfinity and multi-board systems? Let me introduce you to Freefinity, an organization system based on trash you will be throwing into the recycling bin anyway, and that can actually help you organize all your shit. And even though I do own a 3D printer, I do still use and expand my Freefinity system for all those things I should not be keeping around, but I just can't get to throwing it away. And since all of you know how YouTube works, please like, subscribe and comment so the algorithm knows to send me some love. Before we jump to the solution, let's talk some requirements. Any organizational system needs to be somewhat modular to accommodate different things. And to make the best use of space, it should also be stackable and rectangular. Round shapes don't nest together as well as any person using old jars will know. In this case, it should also be cheap and easy to get your hands on. And the answer to this is milk. Well, the thing that milk comes in, at least in my part of this little globe. Milk cartons, to be exact. And bear with me for a second, it goes beyond just cutting out an old milk container. The details matter, and there are some tricks that make this actually something I do still use a lot in spite of having a 3D printer. First tip, at least where I live there are two major package producers, Tetra Pak and SIG. But not all food packaging containers are born the same. While Tetra Pak have a folded bottom, the SIG cartons have a flat pressed bottom, making them so much better to be used for the purpose of storing all those things you don't really need to keep around. As for different sizes and shapes, to keep the free spirit of Freefinity, you should of course be using the cartons of things you actually consume. Since I have to feed 2 mammals, reminder to subscribe please, I have to buy a shitload of milk, which comes in a standard 1 liter container. But you have 2 types, tall, square and skinny, and shorter and rectangular. There are also other products, such as juices and dairy products, which come in different sizes containers that can actually be useful for different applications. Keep in mind also that you can cut the containers open in different orientations that will render you a different container in the end. Which gets me to the cutting. The easiest way to do so is to mark a line and use scissors or a box cutter. But if you want something that is more standardized and consistent, use a piece of wood, the size you want, and just screw on a razor blade to score and cut the boxes every time at the same height. This will come in handy in the next step. And a pro tip, which might be cheating a little bit. If you do have a 3D printer, you can print out a tool to hold the box cutter blade at the exact same height you want to every single time. There's a model in the description. Cutting the containers at the same height comes in handy for the next step. Join some containers together and you get a multi-bin storage, which now can be stacked one on top of the other with stability. The way to do so is to use some type of tape or adhesive lining to secure the boxes together. You can be creative and make it less or more aesthetic, depending on the places you want to use these boxes. You can even use some fabric to wrap your storage bin and make them living quarters friendly. I use this cheap vinyl lining for some and silver tape for others. If you need to store something bigger than your standard container size, the tip is to cut out the divisions between some of the containers after you have made a multi-bin box. And if you need to keep dust out, just make a lid out of the same material. If you take your time and put in a little bit of work, you can build up a vast storage system spending next to nothing. And even if you do have a 3D printer, as I do, you still might want to take this route to build up a vast storage system without breaking the bank and without having to print hundreds of hours and kilos of filament to get a system this big. I hope this helps all of your chronic hoarders to store all those things you really don't need but keep around anyway. And if you like this video, please feed the algorithm, leave a comment, like and subscribe. Thank you very much.